me just get back to that. You said on the Oprah Winfrey Show, this really became a key topic, and it inundated you with emails, phone calls, and everything. Have you felt that you've been getting more people actually coming in from that, or are they just calling you with questions? How's it been working?
Absolutely. Our business has jumped dramatically with people calling in requesting a past life regression.
Wow.
Oftentimes, the issues that need to be addressed are issues that need to be addressed in this life rather than in the past life. But again, it's not up for me to make that decision.
Now, I have a little surprise for you, Jeffrey.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book over here.
Yeah.
Someone gave me this book, and I'm not going to say who. Michael Newton, PhD, Journey of Souls.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to study with Michael Newton. Michael Newton was a traditional psychotherapist who, in working with his clients, doing principally age regression, if a client doesn't wind up in this life, and if a client doesn't wind up in a past life,
right?
Well, he raised the question, well, where is he?
Where is he? That's a very he's not in the past life, and he's not in the present life?
Well, Michael Newton did some 7,000 spiritual regressions in answering that question and exploring the spirit world. And we have clients coming in requesting a life between life spiritual regression, which is actually life-changing. I had a client who came in once for what we call an LBL, and she was
explain what an LBL is to people.
A life between life spiritual regression. Okay. And we were working together for some time on some of the anger issues that she was having. She felt abused by her mother, abused by her father, and abused by herself for subjecting herself to her parents' misuse. And we tried resolving that using traditional regression, age regression.
Right.
And she decided that she wanted to do a life between life spiritual regression.
Let me just, can I interrupt a question for the audience? You did the present regression. You said that this is in between the past and the prior. Now, did this person ever go back to the past life regression before you got into the other one? Can you explain what happened there?
Absolutely. Let me see if I can explain it this way. Many times people come in wanting to know what their life's purpose is. Why are they here? And a regression back to the womb, sometime after your conception and before your birth, perhaps before the veil of forgetfulness drops. There are times when a person still has some remembrance as to why they came. Why did they pick the parents that they chose? Why did they pick their life circumstances? Oftentimes, we come into this life experience and we pick the very circumstances, the very challenges that are in front of us, the very challenges that we need in order to continue on our growth path. Once we overcome those challenges, who do we become? How effective are we then to go ahead and continue on our growth path? So oftentimes a regression back to the womb will give some insight into that. A past life regression might also shed some light on our purpose here. Sometimes we come into this life experience and there is unresolved issues that wasn't quite dealt with in a past life. Sometimes we make promises to ourselves that those promises are brought into this life experience, and those promises don't serve us very well.
I had a question. You mentioned the past life, the present life, the in-between nowhere. Is there any studies into future
progression?
Yeah. That's my own questions.
Mm-hmm. Sure. No, there are hypnotists that do progression. We also do progression at the New York Hypnosis Center. When you're dealing with someone who has a particular issue and you want to see if that issue is resolved, by progressing them into the future, you can help them determine for themselves whether or not that issue is resolved. Sometimes it's a way of giving a person an opportunity to see what their course of life is like. Let's say if we're talking about a smoker, for instance.
Right.
Somebody who is smoking, let's say, a pack a day. Well, what would their life be like if 5 years into the future, nothing's changed? How is their health? How is their breathing? What's the quality of their life? By using progression, they can get a sense for what would happen to them if their behavior didn't change.
Okay, so that type of person, their goal would probably be to see how bad things would get, figuring out, and that would give them some kind of motivation to stop smoking?
True. You can also do the same thing on the other side. You can show them what their life would be if they suddenly stopped the cigarettes, if they suddenly changed the behavior that was interfering with where they wanted to go consciously. What would their life be like 5 years into the future, 10 years into the future, 15 years into the future, if suddenly they resolve these issues? What would their benefits be? And asking a client before the session even starts to identify those benefits and then progress them into the future, having them experience those benefits, could be extremely helpful.
Let me ask one other thing on the future thing. I don't know if we were going to discuss this topic. Let's say someone came in very obese and wanted to be much better conditioned physically, mentally, and everything else. Would you ever get involved? Would they ever speak about some way that they used to exercise and wanted to do more in the future to try to shred the weight? That ever come up in the progressive thing?
Well, let me see if I can answer it this way.
Okay.
When somebody comes in for weight management,
right,
it's hypnosis is not a diet. Hypnosis is changing your relationship with food.
Right.
And I had a woman who came in, and her presenting issue was that she wanted to lose 100 pounds. So in hypnosis, we used regression to bring her back to an earlier time that had everything to do with that issue, that feeling of wanting to overeat or needing to overeat.
Right.
And this is an example of a woman who was not visual. So for her, when we regressed her back, when the scene opened up, she was 5 years old, and she was not seeing anything, but she was feeling vulnerable and insecure. She was actually missing her mother. And when did she feel safe again? She was actually being watched by her grandmother. When did she feel safe again? When her mother came home around dinner time. It was then that she felt secure. She made this neural connection or this neural association between mother's love, food, and safety. Now, she didn't start gaining weight right away. But at the age of 19, she left the house for good. What was she feeling? She was feeling insecure, vulnerable. What did she do? She went to the refrigerator, and she didn't close it again until she was 100 pounds heavier. So this is an example of a person learning that food was safety. Food was mother's love. And when she was needing mother's love, missing mother's love, that old program kicked in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.